Get the cream, precious metals or the crypto things. Your bars are light like the one that's on a Smith machine. But my match swell and I ain't speaking about the pretty wings. Watch.
Let's talk about Bloodsport 7, which took place on October the 22nd, 2021. Bloodsport, for those of you who don't know, maybe you're new to the channel, I do review Bloodsport because I really like it. It is, to me, a true evolution of pro wrestling. The thing is realistic. It's not long. The matches are not long. And it's just fun to watch. It's also very good as, you know, a palate cleanser. If you watch a lot of silly wrestling, like, you know, which I do. Impact and AEW and WWE, they all can get very, very silly. But Bloodsport is purely sport. It is what it says it is. It is worked wrestling, of course, with an MMA style to it. So former MMA fighters, people who have really good backgrounds, they come here and they really do really well. On this episode, there was a lot of this event rather. There was some NXT talent that was not properly utilized. Let's put it like that. Marina Shafir and Tyler Huas. They were both in pretty high-profile matches here. And you get to see that NXT or WWE isn't always the best place for people who have legitimate backgrounds. You see Ty Conti, she's doing a little bit better in AEW as well. Because WWE puts so much emphasis on the entertainment portion and not exactly on working what you can do. You know, like, they'll hire you for that. But ultimately, you have to be able to bring the entertainment value. And this is what Bloodsport kind of gets away from that, you know, because it's not about being a showcase, but it is at the same time entertaining, you know. So none of the matches are very long. Doesn't require a lot of detail. So but it's fun to watch. It's an easy watch. You can sit down, boom, watch it. It's there's no storylines, so you don't have to know if they're feuding or anything like that. That's a negative to me because I like to know, you know, about the characters and stuff like that. But it's all right. It's very good as far as I'm concerned when how they put their shows together. And it's run by Josh Barnett. I think it was supposed to be run. I forget who was running it before him, but it's under the GCW banner. So usually part of one of these crazy GCW weekends, they have a Bloodsport event. It's usually like once a quarter, I think, or once every several months. So they're still pretty good. This card had at least 3 really good fights on it. And I think they kind of deserve to be called fights, even though they're more like grappling matches, you know. So let's talk about it. The first match, Starboy Charlie is defeated by Yuya by knockout. Not anything I can, you know, it's pretty fast paced because they're both pretty small, skinny, young guys, but nothing that really stood out to me. KZT versus Zeta Zhang, who won by submission. Zeta Zhang won by submission. It was kind of a leg trap. But it's kind of like you get your arms on a crucifix and she was punching her in the head and the ref stopped it. But I think it was also a submission. Zeta Zhang was in NXT. I don't remember her in being in NXT, but I'm pretty sure she was there. I think they mentioned it on commentary. I don't remember who she was though. So she was in NXT. So that's one. Royce Isaacs, who I remember from NWA and from previous, I think Hollywood Championship Wrestling or Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, versus Clark Connors, who I know is a prospect for New Japan Strong. This to me was probably the best match of the night. Really great grappling here, like really back and forth, great grappling. Both guys are in great shape, so their cardio was right. You know, it looked very realistic. Some really fun exchanges. Clark Connors wins with a rear naked choke. This is really fun. Like, if you don't, let's say you're trying to figure out whether you like Bloodsport or not, search this match out. Even though it's not the main event, it's the third match, but it's still pretty good. And you should go and watch it. And it's not long at all. Bad Dude Tito gets defeated by Eric Hammer. Just 2 big heavyweights going at it. Not much in the way of, you know, amazement for me, but it was still pretty fun. Calvin Tankman, who I really like, first was defeated by JR Kratos by knockout. This match was very solid too. I'm a big fan of Calvin Tankman from MLW. Kratos is one of the okay guys from the NWA. It took me a while to warm up to him. He just came across like a giant boulder with the same personality as a giant boulder. But to me, he's in this realm, he's a little bit more believable as a guy who would beat you the fuck up. Sometimes just the presentation changes when you go from one specific place to another. And the finish came with a big, like a giant knee that Tankman didn't see coming, and then he finished him with like a running lariat, like a basement lariat, and it was called off with the ref. Marina Shafir defeated Masha Slamovich. Slamovich is, of course, the newest signee to Impact, and Marina Shafir is the wife of Roderick Strong. She was on NXT for a long time, one of the four horsewomen. She was never really given a shot, but she was involved in Raw Underground for a short time. And she has talked very positively about Raw Underground, but there was no follow-up. So she kind of felt like I wasn't doing anything in NXT. It wasn't properly, they didn't do anything. And then Raw Underground was an opportunity. I got to show off what I can do, but there was no next step. And probably because of the way it was just summarily ended. It was just kind of killed off. But her and Masha had a really good match here. It was, a lot of grappling. And it was also very physical. For a women's match, this was physical. I'm talking like they were hitting pretty hard. The slams were pretty hard. It was dope. Marina Shafir, of course, being a former MMA fighter, wins with an armbar. So this is another one that if you really just kind of want to get a taste of it, this is a good one to look at. Alex Coughlin, another prospect, I believe, from New Japan Pro Wrestling, versus Filthy Tom Lawler, who of course, wrestles in MLW. He also wrestled occasionally in New Japan. Former MLW World Champion, former MMA fighter from the USC, who won with a heel hook. Tom Lawler wins with the heel hook. This match was good. I enjoyed this. The New Japan guys are pretty well trained. And you could tell, like, this whole thing was a mixture of, WWE can recruit their asses off when it comes to picking people who have legitimate backgrounds, because there's quite a few people here that were coming from WWE and were recruited by WWE. But then there's a lot of the people who were trained by New Japan. And New Japan is like, the dojo system is very grappling heavy, especially when you go through the Young Lion stage and you're not able to do that much of anything. Then you're essentially grappling becomes your life, So this was pretty good. It was Tom Lawler wins. Davey Richards versus another New Japan Young Lion, Yuya Urimura. And Davey Richards wins with an ankle submission. This match was short. It was very short, actually. Crowd booed the finish because they were really in the camp of Yuya Urimura, who I'm guessing is kind of getting over. A New Japan Strong, maybe. I don't watch New Japan Strong, so I don't know. But they were chanting for Yuya, and they were really into him. And it seemed like, maybe the match got cut short, or maybe that's what they were upset about because the match was very short. But Davey Richards is, of course, making his return to pro wrestling. He's still on his return tour. So he's winning all the time now. Tiger Huas was defeated by Josh Barnett. Tiger Huas, Arturo Huas from NXT. I was a big fan of him when he wrestled in Evolve. He never really got a shot in NXT. And then, of course, I think injuries also played a part. But Huas comes across like a disciplinarian. Like a cold, empty fighting machine. And that's not going to work in modern WWE. Like that stuff ain't going to work. He got the moves. He got the moves down. Like, his grappling is really good. It's high level, too. I think he's like a black belt in like half a dozen martial arts. But it's not enough. You still have to be entertaining. And without turning him into a cartoon character, what do? So, but this match was very good. Josh Barnett usually has one of the better matches on the show, mainly because he understands the style very well. Josh Barnett, for people who are like, who is Josh Barnett and why does he get his own show? Well, he's a former UFC heavyweight champion. He used to train with Billy Robinson. He also helped train Shayna Baszler. So he is very prolific in the MMA and wrestling scenes. So he kind of is the, how do you call it, the matchmaker for this whole ordeal. And he's actually very good. Now, he did some worked wrestling. He did work in New Japan for a while. I don't remember how that went because I don't remember watching too much of that stuff. But Josh Barnett is very good. And this was a great grappling contest, another one where you get to see the high level of martial arts that Tiger Huas knows, especially when they were doing the striking exchanges. Very good stuff. His takedowns were very good too. He make it look so easy that I was thinking to myself, man, I could do that. But I know I can't do that because I'm not. He makes it look, he looks very good. And this is like his perfect for his element for Tiger Huas. This is perfect for his element. I was a fan when he was in Evolve, was a fan of, was hoping that he might get something in NXT. Unfortunately, just due to the nature of the product at the time, he didn't have enough oomph. He reminds me a lot of Steve Blackman, who was, an Attitude Era staple. But the guy has zero personality. So I could just see them, if he had stuck around in WWE, they probably would get a head cheese storyline or some type of goofy thing where he has to be the straight man. And as some comedy idiot gets all the pops, and he comes in to do, stuff here and there. But he was one of the guys who was released, I believe, in 2020. But Tiger Huas is the real deal. He may have lost this match, which is his first fight after NXT. And but he may have lost, but trust me, the fact that Josh Barnett wanted to fight him in this environment is putting him over. The main event, which shouldn't have been the main event to me, and I'm going to rant about this and probably get some thumbs down, especially from people who really like this stuff. Chris Dickenson was defeated by Minoru Suzuki via a half crab. There was a lot of slaps back and forth, a lot of elbows back and forth. I hate that stuff. I absolutely hate the Japanese influence when it comes to that kind of shit, and that's really why I kind of get the idea that Chris Dickenson is a guy who, he's very strong on the independents. He usually summit everywhere. He works Ring of Honor. He works, I think he's the world champion of the United Wrestling Network. He pretty much can pop up and will pop up anywhere. He is a traditional pro wrestler. I really like Chris Dickenson. Minoru Suzuki is, a hard-hitting, older school guy who I think is talented. But I think that a lot of the older guys in Japan, once they get to the point where their movement isn't as good anymore, they just rely on you hit me, I hit you, you hit me, I hit you. And then the occasional burst of action. And if they got charisma, they can lean back on that. And Minoru Suzuki does that, He has some charisma because he's such a badass. He's sort of like the Brock Lesnar of Japan, Like he has his reputation for being an absolute killer. But now he's like 50 something. And most of his matches are him standing in one spot taking elbows or slaps. And occasionally they'll get into a grappling exchange where he gets to show off how good he used to be. But to me, it's like guys who are completely prostrating themselves in front of these old Japanese dudes. I'm just kind of like, come on, man. No way. Get over that shit, man. And I don't know. I think it started probably in the 90s with Misawa and Kobashi, where the independents just became everybody wants to be Japan. Everybody has to be work like they're in Japan. So that constantly with the back and forth elbows, the back and forth slaps. There's a time and a place for it where you could do it and it looks good and it makes sense. It's also a place where it kind of looks ridiculous. And I think quite often when they do it, even if they're hitting hard, it doesn't look like a spot that you would do in a wrestling match. And it also comes across like one of those performance spots. It's match filler, like a headlock. You know, it's like we're gonna pretend that we're actually doing something. We're really just gonna stand still and allow each other to smack one another. And that's stupid to me. It's foolish. And I think Dickenson, he probably was like, oh, it's an honor to wrestle Minoru Suzuki and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, I guess it can be. But now Suzuki is everywhere. He's wrestling everybody. So it's like not as rare and great as it would probably have been if he was like a rare occurrence. But since he's going like an American tour where he's, you know, popping up everywhere and wrestling some of everybody, it's not really quite well, I should say for me, because who knows what he thinks. You know, he probably thinks, oh, this is great, and, you know, being a mark for him and shit. There was no post-match, which was a surprise to me. Usually there's some type of post-match angle or post-match announcement or something that leads to the next Bloodsport. But there wasn't one this time. So, you know, who knows? It might have been a one-off for Suzuki. Like, normally I would think they would try to come out there and shoot an angle for the next Bloodsport where he had to fight somebody else probably higher up on the card, which is why I thought that, you know, Dickenson losing was like, okay, well, he's probably going to fight Moxley or somebody next in the Bloodsport arena. But, nope. And all in all, outside of the main event and probably a couple of other fights, this was a really good show. And it's very easy to watch. It's like 2 hours, I think. So, hey, if you can find it somewhere, you know, I would say watch it. You know, it's also, you know, not expensive if you wanted to buy it. So, I think you should watch it. I really enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort so question as if